Ever wonder what really happens inside a youth correctional facility on any given day? Well, we got our hands on an official government record that gives us a rare, unfiltered look. We're going to break down what the raw data from just a single 24-hour period reveals about the reality on the ground. Okay, so let's dive right in. What you're looking at here is a page straight out of a massive 405-page incident log from the Newfoundland and Labrador Youth Center. These are the official reports filed by staff. We're going to focus just on one day, the very first day of this year, January 1st, to see what kind of patterns pop up. All right, so how do we even begin to unpack all of this? The best way, I think, is to just walk through the day as it happened, chronologically, and see how things unfold according to these official documents. So the day kicks off with, well, immediate volatility. The very first report of the day documents a resident yelling, "I am going to rape your sister," an incredibly extreme threat that right away results in non-compliance with direction and then placement in secure isolation for at least 2 hours. It really sets a tense tone from the get-go.
And you have to remember, while all this is going on inside, the doors are still revolving. The records show that staff are also trying to manage a steady stream of new kids arriving. You see reports detailing new admissions for everything from robbery to breaches of release orders, and each one requires a full intake process. It's a real balancing act.
So what's actually sparking these confrontations? Let's take a look at what the documents say are the triggers for some of the most serious incidents. And you might be surprised by how, well, ordinary they are. Okay, get this. It all starts with a super simple question about dinner. According to this report, one resident is eating his supper and asks another, who's cooking, how many chicken fingers he had just made. Seems like a totally innocent moment during mealtime, right? But he doesn't get an answer. Instead, the report documents that the resident who was asked the question fired back with, "Are you still fucking talking to me?" and then started to aggressively approach the other in a way that staff believed was definitely going to cause a physical fight. And from there, things just exploded. The resident actually tried to swing a punch, which forced staff to jump in with physical and even mechanical restraints before getting him isolated in his room. All of this stemming from a simple question about chicken fingers. And look, this whole chicken finger thing, it's not a one-off. As we comb through the reports from just this one day, you see these incredibly ordinary categories pop up again and again as flashpoints. Fights over ketchup and milk, disagreements about the rules of a card game, or just being told no to a walk in the yard. These are the documented starting points for major blow-ups. Okay, so that's the trigger. Now, what's the response? How is this behavior managed? Let's look at the official record to see what tools and procedures staff use when situations really start to escalate. All right, before we go any further, there's a key term you really have to know because you're going to see it everywhere in these reports: secure isolation, or SI. This is a primary response where, after an incident, a resident is confined to their room for a set period of time. We're talking 2, 3, sometimes even 6 hours at a time. And you can see a pretty clear path of escalation in the reports. Staff are documented trying to talk the person down first, using verbal de-escalation and counseling. But when that doesn't work, the response moves to physical holds, then to mechanical restraints like handcuffs, and very often it ends in secure isolation. So when you step back and you look at the sheer number of reports from just these 24 hours, a pattern really starts to emerge. It's not about one or two big events. It's this relentless, non-stop cycle of crisis management, one thing right after another. For example, remember that denied yard walk we mentioned? Well, here's what happened next. The resident starts screaming, "I hope my mother dies tomorrow," and then threatens to kill his mother. He's also yelling abuse at the staff. The consequence? A recommendation for 3 hours of secure isolation. Meanwhile, probably just down the hall, in another unit, a staff member is dealing with this direct threat from a resident. "I will get a knife, and I will fuck you up so bad. I'll stab you in the fucking diaphragm and make you drown in your own blood." The response requested for that? 4 hours of secure isolation. And check this out, another food-related trigger. A resident gets angry over a lack of ketchup. This spirals into him punching his plate, throwing his chocolate milk against the wall, and eventually threatening to burn my house down with me in it. And that card game we talked about? Here's how that went down. According to the report, some laughter during the game upset another resident. He lashed out,
And when he was told to go to his room, he swung a closed fist and hit a youth care counselor, that's a staff member who's there for direct supervision and support, smack in the jaw.
And it just goes on and on. The source file we have contains over 20 pages of these unique incident reports, just for January 1st. The sheer volume gives you a sense of the scale of the turmoil that staff and the youth are all navigating every single day. But maybe the most telling detail comes from this quote. And what's wild is this isn't from a staff member. This is from one resident complaining about another. It's a really powerful glimpse into the constant stress of the environment, even for the kids just trying to get some sleep.
So you add it all up, the big blow-ups, the small arguments over ketchup, and what you get is this relentless cycle of action and reaction. The reports paint a really clear picture of a super high-stress, volatile environment for literally everyone inside, both the youth and the staff. Which kind of brings us to the big question, right? We've just walked through the raw, unfiltered reports from one single 24-hour period. This isn't an opinion piece. This is the data itself. So it really raises a fundamental question. If this is what one day looks like, what does that tell us about the pressures, the challenges, and the overall state of the system that's designed to care for these youths?